I think there are certain things that I would like to share that they could find useful in their own journey as well, right?
We would love that.
You mentioned the point of supercharging their career.
Correct.
And for some people, it's not their want or intent to even supercharge it as well, right?
Right, okay.
The pace of which they go through their own careers is a choice they've got to make. Right?
Agreed.
And ultimately, what I look for is growth.
Right.
Whether it's fast growth, slow growth, it's growing as an individual.
Correct.
On your own, right?
Hi, everyone. We're back again for the GRADUAN podcast. I am Hannah here. And today, in today's video, we are joined with Lee Yun Han, a director with Deloitte Southeast Asia, and who's also a human capital expert with experience in organizational transformation, enabling change and adoption, as well as strategic workforce planning. So he's a regular speaker with clients and the media on Deloitte's human capital trends and the future of work. So today, he will speak to us about how you can supercharge your career growth. So before we start on the topic, can you share a little bit more about Deloitte and what exactly that you do?
All right, sure. Thanks a lot, Hannah, for having me on this podcast. I'm delighted to be here, to have a chance to share
here as well.
With your listeners, right, in terms of how I can help them at least expand their ideas around supercharging their career, right, which is kind of like the ethos of my own career over the past now 18 years in consulting, right? And I've been involved in human capital consulting for that length of time, serving clients across Southeast Asia, spent time in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Singapore, Indonesia, as well as Thailand as well for a few years, right? And helping my clients solve the most complex human capital problems, right? And that's essentially my role, right? So in Deloitte, I oversee the Malaysia practice for human capital, as well as Vietnam. So I do spend a lot of time traveling between both countries.
Here in Vietnam?
Here in Vietnam as well.
Okay, how often is that?
Maybe I'm there about once a month, right?
Okay, that's very often then.
Yeah, correct. Because I've got the team there, and it's very interesting to see how our teams at Deloitte, when we serve our clients, and whether it's organizations, governments, communities, right? All the problems that come to us are varying in nature, different, diverse.
Correct.
And we always can't use the same way to solve it each and every single time, right? And that's the thing that excites me a lot when it comes to the work that I do day in, day out, right? Because
just when you think there's more, you learn a lot more from different people, right?
Very much so, very much so, and that's what keeps me going here at Deloitte. And the diverse teams that we have is also one thing that keeps me going a lot. So that's in a nutshell what I do. And on top of that, I also lead the change management offering for Southeast Asia, which essentially advises clients around with all the transformation and things that are going on. How do you manage the human aspect of the change, right? Because you can put in a new technology, put in a new process, but if the people are not ready, then you've got a big problem. Right?
That's true. That is true. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. It sounds a lot like you've learned so much from your career as well. I mean, you've gone here and there. You've seen so many, opinions. You've heard so many opinions, thoughts from different people, and that's great because then you learn a lot more and you can kind of share that knowledge with others. Okay, so we have decided on today's topic because many of you, our listeners, are early career job seekers, and we kind of believe that you would be interested to learn more about how you can supercharge your career growth. So first and foremost, do you have any advice on how they can start planning for their career development, especially for like the first starter, the first bloomers?
Yep, sure. And by boomers, you don't mean baby boomers,
no,
right? This would
bloomers,
be the Gen Zs, millennials,
the first ones
those who are
out
coming
now.
out here, right?
Correct.
And I believe that, because my experience over the past 18, nearly 20 years now, I don't intend that my views and my advice are so relevant to that generation as well. I do know they're going through different aspects of life and facing different challenges compared to when I graduated at that time, right? And I think there are certain things that I would like to share that they could find useful in their own journey as well, right?
You mentioned
the point of supercharging their career.
Correct.
And for some people, it's not their want or intent to even supercharge it as well, right? The pace of which they go through their own careers is a choice they've got to make. Right?
Agreed.
And ultimately, what I look for is growth.
Right.
Whether it's fast growth, slow growth, it's growing as an individual
Correct.
on your own, right? And I tend to look at three things that help with that growth, right? So firstly, is around having the right, whether you call them mentors or coaches, the right people to help you with that, right?
That's true.
So that's the first one. The second one is around just being surrounded in the right environment and the kinds of people that you get inspired by, that you can learn from.
That's true.
The kind of people that just know so much more than,
A lot,
than you, right?
that you would look up to in a way.
Exactly,
Correct.
exactly. And the last one is, to me, the mindset, right? That, what got you here won't get you there.
Correct.
Sort of mindset. So these are the three things that I believe, even for the generation that's coming out into the workforce, holding these things in mind can help them with their own growth in their careers, as well as their own personal growth as well.
That's true. That's a very, very relevant 3 pointers that you've given, because it varies. It doesn't necessarily have to be even for early career job seekers. For as long as you have that realization, and then you are inspired by something, it kind of gives you like that shift that you want to make, right? Yep. Okay, so can you elaborate more on the things, the 3 pointers that you've given? Maybe give us some insights about mentors and coaches, and finding a lot more about those 3 pointers.
Okay. So I can talk a lot about all those 3 pointers. Given the time, I can explain a little bit more about what I mean by that, right? So the point around coaches, mentors, it comes from the point whereby there's only so much that you know as an individual, right? A lot of us, and I think your listeners as well, are bright, ambitious, experienced individuals in their own right.
Correct.
Right? And sometimes having that third party outside view in. People who can observe you, people who also are vested in your own career, your own growth as an individual, to give you feedback. Right? As to, did you notice this? When you said that, there was the reaction. Is this something that you want to work on as well? And
because sometimes they don't realize it themselves, and it's great. Yeah,
they don't. And they've got blind spots, right?
Correct. Like all humans do. Correct.
All humans do. And we the more we do something, the more we think that we're very good at it, and that's it.
That's actually like that's a very thin line between knowing and then the other not knowing, the unknown,
and not knowing, right? And finding coaches and mentors is not just having that just anyone, right? Because it has to be somebody that you trust, right? And that person also is vested in you,
correct?
And that's where he or she can really help you develop as an individual, to know your blind spots, weak spots, and all that. And at Deloitte and throughout my career, I would not have gotten to where I'm at without that sort of guidance and coaching from many people across my career.
That's true.
And some of them even come outside of the firm that I work in as well.
Oh, really? That's great. Yeah, so you have different, it's not biased, everyone gets to...
Exactly. Some of my clients are my coaches and mentors as well.
Correct, because you learn from everybody. That's the best part about finding mentors, because you never really expect it until you realize, oh, this person inspires me and is actually invested in what I want to be eventually. Okay.
Exactly.
So what about like, your teams and clients who are kind of people who are your mentors? How's that like for you?
I used to go to clients and say that, hey, I'm here to tell you how to do things, right? With that sort of somewhat arrogant mindset of approaching it. And then, over time, then I realized that there's so much that they know that I can learn from them as well. And there are things that I know that I can share with them as well, because they've been in their line for decades, right? They've been in the industry for decades.
That's true.
And likewise, in Deloitte as a firm, when I joined the firm and I find that the people I've been speaking to as well, over the past several years working here, the level of expertise is just astonishing.
That's true.
Right? If I think I know a topic like, let's say, workforce planning, right? So, I've done 2 or 3 projects on that. And then I speak to someone who built the whole business around workforce planning and say,
that's true.
You know that much more than I do, right?
Or and you could learn a lot more from that.
A lot more. And
it was actually a privilege to have known somebody.
Exactly. And because they know so much more, they've seen so much more, and they've got a regional perspective, a global perspective to it. They've built businesses out of it. They've written papers about it. They may have gotten their PhD out of it or certification.
That's true.
What do I have, right? And that's the part around surrounding yourself with that level of expertise is one that to me helped accelerate my learning, and it kept me quite humble, right? In the part whereby I
humility is a big thing.
It is.
It should
is.
be a big thing.
Yeah.
Everybody should have it in them, definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so I know supercharging, which is like a very fast thing for career growth. So what does learning and unlearning mean in terms of like implementing it into supercharging your career growth?
Okay. The learning and unlearning part is that we tend to see growth as linear.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
And think that, and you see growth as linear, then you start encountering what I would like to call diminishing returns.
Yeah,
right?
but by the book it's linear, or it goes up all the way, never saying the down parts. Yeah.
Exactly. And the point around learning and unlearning is where I look at how do I reinvent myself from time to time.
Right.
And going through my own career as well, I realized that there are certain dead ends that I tend to get towards, right? Because of that diminishing returns. I just want to keep going down this path. I don't want to change.
And you're so spot on, tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly. And then I find that I get stuck from a growth standpoint and I get frustrated, right? As to what that means. So when it comes to learning and unlearning, I like to adopt what I call my philosophy of 80-20, right?
I've heard of that. So can you share a little bit more about this 80-20?
So it's things where it could be projects, it could be roles that I take on, or it could be tasks or whatnot, right? Where it has to be 20% something that I know, right? And 80% something that I really don't know. Either don't know, not good at, not much experience at. It's really not in my comfort zone to do this 80%.
But it takes a lot, right? Because it says 80%, so now you're scared.
Exactly. But I still have the 20% as a grounding, right? Correct. So that I don't fail, right, in the other 80%.
True.
Right? So whenever my partners or other people come and approach me and say, hey, are you interested to do this? Would you like to consider that? And I'm like, all right, there's this 80% of what I can make it out to be, and say that I can learn from this part and make it my own, right? And then, I've got expertise in this area in the 20%, which will help me in the other 80% as well, right? So that's the philosophy that I like to have in all the roles that I've been through in my career as well, right?
That's a great philosophy that that people should know of, because I've heard it before, and to hear it from someone with your expertise, adapting it still is an amazing thing to hear, especially for our young talents out there.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I took on Vietnam as a market as well, right?
Okay.
Before that, I've never worked in Vietnam.
Yeah, of course, it's out of your comfort zone, but it's a good thing that you use the 80-20 rule, to make it there.
Correct, exactly.
That's great. Yeah. So, can you share us a little bit more about how Deloitte supports its people, especially when it comes to supercharging the career growth? Other than, these are all internal things that people have to do personally, individually, right? So how does Deloitte come into the picture and kind of help them, give them that extra push?
That extra push.
Yeah.
Some people don't need the extra push. In fact, they will come chasing after us to say, like, what can we do, right? And
that's true.
The hungry ones, right? And I think that they've got the right thing whereby they're really hungering for opportunities, learnings, and so on and so forth. And these are the kinds of people that thrive in Deloitte, right? And I do know that some people need a bit of help, right? And that's where we also have programs in place for those who come through our doors as well. And most of your listeners here are, high school, fresh grads coming in an organization. Like Deloitte could be their first job as well, right?
Yeah.
And because I'm in the consulting and the advisory space, most people don't quite know what consulting is like, right? Until they kind of set foot in that.
That's true.
And then they get a shocker, right?
Yeah,
that's
true.
Oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? So for fresh graduates coming in, we've got what we call a Deloitte boot camp.
Okay.
So that's a dedicated 2-week program that we put all our fresh graduates through, and that allows them to really immerse themselves into what a project would look like, what's the expectations when you finally roll onto a client, what are the do's and don'ts, and actually working with their teams to come up with things, right? Because it's not just theory, right? And give them an assignment in 2 weeks.
And then they have to just kind of follow the book,
so the kind of simulating all that in the boot camp, and what does the report look like, what does the deliverable look like, and they've got to present as well, right? They say that, are you ready to synthesize all the data?
Oh, so it's more of like it's kind of giving them the real deal, but for them to train themselves into it, right? So they won't get shocked by it. So how long does this boot camp usually last?
It lasts for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And in the 2 weeks, we can't disturb them, right? So they are focused on that.
Right.
And it's designed to allow them to have the best chance of success at the end of the bootcamp being deployed onto their first assignment in Deloitte. So that's been created for that purpose. And the bootcamp is also delivered, it's not by HR type of team delivering
that was one of the things I was wondering about. So how's that like? Is it by departments, or how do you segregate this bootcamp?
The actual practitioners are the ones doing it, right? And there are times where I do get involved in training the young analysts as well in those bootcamps also, because they benefit most from real life experiences and what to do and getting comfortable with that. Because coming from a university, there's a right answer to things. And going through the bootcamp, you realize that in real life, there is not much of a right answer to many things, right? And that's getting them used to that uncertainty, managing your stakeholders, your team, your clients, your supervisors, and those are quite critical skill sets to be successful in a firm like Deloitte.
Especially when you're fresh out of school, so you kind of want to know these things, especially from somebody who's actually doing it already.
That's right.
Okay, that helps new hires to integrate the firm, definitely. So from there, from the bootcamp, what's next for them?
So that's where the pedal hits the metal, right?
Okay,
so
tell us more. Tell us more. They would definitely love to know.
So all of our analysts get assigned to projects, right? Ultimately, Deloitte, we serve clients in different capacities as well, right? And we would want the people that come and join us as well to have that client service experience, and those are done through project assignments, right? And the projects, it could be a small project, it could be a big project. You know, some projects last for 2-3 weeks, some last for 2-3 years, right? Depending on the scale. Some are local, some are regional, right? And some assignments come from our global member firms as well, where they require implementation on this part of the world. And that's where they start working with our Deloitte teams, right? Their supervisor, other consultants, their project manager, project director, engagement partners as well. And even for the juniors, it's not one where we lock them in a room and they don't get to meet the clients, right? We fully expect all those who join us as well to be client facing. And that's where they learn very quickly, right? How do their seniors operate with clients?
It's like hands-on.
Hands-on, we expect them, and that's where the most learning happens on the job, right? And they'll be supporting their teams, whether it's around analysis, whether it's around preparing reports, whether it's around facilitating workshops, right? Data gathering, trend research. All these things, they are the backbone of the projects in order to deliver, right?
Because what better way to learn if not by experiencing it themselves. Correct.
Exactly. Okay. Now, they're not just left alone on
that.
Correct.
So because they have a team of from different levels, so they have people to look at and such things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And I think a global firm like Deloitte is one where the more resourceful you are, then the more you get out of it.
Correct.
Because your project manager can tell you so much.
But that's just one person.
That's just one part. That's just one person. And it doesn't mean that you just take everything that he or she says, like, okay, I'll just follow exactly. Right? And we've got our knowledge exchange. We've got global experts around. It's just a click away to find an expert in procurement, right? Or an expert around, telco industry, or an expert around the latest in SAP technologies, right? And then they're all over the place, and nothing is stopping an analyst that just joined us in finding who these people are, reaching out to them, getting on a call with them, getting the latest from them as well, and sharing it with the teams, right? So the more resourceful that they are, it actually helps the teams tremendously.
No one is out of reach. Everybody,
no one is out of reach.
Amazing. Right. So that's like a diverse network of clients, of people working with you alongside the people you meet. So how does Deloitte then now, like, let's do the other side, right? So how does Deloitte determine the right people?
The right people.
The right people. How I would
like to say it's more the right mix of a team. All right. There's no right one person. And at Deloitte, I like to, and from my experience here, it's a really diverse firm. Right? And I can't look down the street and point at the person and say, oh, that's a Deloitte person, right? There's no single mold of the look and feel of Deloitte person.
That's true.
We value diversity in skills, in the perspectives, right? And the backgrounds of the people that we come in. Many of them are not consultants like me who grew up in consulting, right? They could have gone into the industry, joined the function. Some of them started their own business and then joined consulting as well. Right? And we've got people who started in consulting, started their own business, joined corporate, came back to consulting.
Yeah.
And that gives them such a diverse background of experiences.
They've seen more, they have a lot more to say.
A lot more. And our clients appreciate that because they might say, hey, we've not done it before. It's like, wait,
so how am I supposed to trust you? Yeah.
Exactly. Correct. And that's where when we bring that diverse teams to our clients, right? That's what's required when we help them solve really complex problems. Like, for example, one of the projects that I'm involved now is helping one of the Malaysian institutions, right, or regulatory institutions, a very major and important one here, in order to help them digitalize their operations, right? And you can imagine that being a regulatory institution that has responsibility to the nation, right? And having an opportunity to help them to become better and more efficient at what they do, of course, for the Rakyat's benefit and for Malaysians' benefit as well. It's of course a privilege and an honor. Now, to do that successfully, it's not just Yun Han and Co. that I know everything. Right?
That's true.
It's a digital transformation involving so many parts, right? You need expertise around accounting, you need expertise around finance, business planning, procurement, human resources, right?
It's not a one-man job for everything.
Not one person, right? And my role in that is to advise them around how to manage the change, right? And I'm working with other experts who are experts in the technology, right? Experts in automation, right? Experts in that particular process in finance, right? How do I do consolidation better given the nature of this business? And we've got industry experts as well who know the sector, who know regulators, how they work.
Which fits best here and there,
Exactly. So it's really the diverse skill sets that we bring in order to help our clients solve their most complex problems.
Okay, so you did mention that even if you're like early on in your career with Deloitte and whatnot, so that means your team is a mixture of juniors and seniors, right? So how do expectations vary between them? I'm sure the young ones are interested to know how responsibilities develop over time as they progress, especially within the firm. So how's that like?
Yeah. So I do know that many of the new graduates coming out might not necessarily consider or think about a career for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right?
True.
Now, having said that, this also applies to wherever they go, right? Whether it's in a firm like Deloitte, in consulting or outside of consulting, the general principles apply of the kind of skill sets you need to build up over time. So when someone joins Deloitte as a junior, the expectations are one whereby you need to build up your skills rapidly. Right? And they're expected to serve on projects, right? Serve clients on projects, doing a multitude of tasks, right? And some of the examples I mentioned earlier, around preparing the deliverables of the project, the reports, the research, right?
Getting used to it fast,
all of that, right? So building that as much skill set as possible in the early years, right? So that number one, they start to build a strong foundation.
Correct.
Right? And number two, they start to understand what I like. And what I'm more naturally inclined to as a person in terms of my skill sets, what I'm more good at without having to struggle so much. Right?
That's true.
Some people may think that, I like strategy, but find that when they do strategy work, actually that's not my cup of tea, right? And they love technology more, right?
That's true.
So at the junior level, it's really experiencing that and being very reliable in how you deliver on teams, right? So you want to be the kind of person whereby you're the go-to person to say, if I've got a slot in my project and I need someone on project, you're the first
person I thought about.
To come on board, right? And that's how you really accelerate your growth, right? So that's at the junior level, right? Now, as you accumulate those skill sets and you become more senior, you start leading teams. Right? And when you start leading teams, your skill sets around people start to become more important. Right?
Definitely.
This is a problem many of my clients have, whereby they start leading teams, but they're still very focused on the technical skill set. But they don't have the people skills on how to do work through people.
Correct.
Right? And what I tend to coach my people is that as you progress to team lead, you'd find that you'll be spending half of the time or more than half of the time managing people.
Because now your boat is full.
Your boat is full. And if you're focusing 80% of the time on the technical work that you need to do, you're not taking full advantage of the team that is there that was supposed to help you
do
this, right? So that shift of mindset around just delivering or being very good at delivering things to now leading teams that have emotions, needs, wants, aspirations, humans at the end of the day, right? Because people would come to you with all sorts of issues and problems, right? And as a team lead, and it's what I tell them as well, it is your job to manage navigate that, but not to go and do the work on your own, right? That your teams may not be able to do, right? So that's at the team lead sort of level. And as you progress more, right, as you lead more teams, more projects, you start to develop a subject matter expertise. And that's where in the firm, right, you become the go-to person for this subject, that subject. And it's not a long list of subjects as well, right? So while I've been in the human capital space for a good nearly 20 years, I'm not a subject matter expert of everything. Right? So I'm the go-to person for things like change management. Right? So I'm the go-to person for things around human capital in Malaysia, right? Some of the aspects. And that's only done through because of my presence here, my knowledge of the clients, and my knowledge of change management, having done many projects. And failed in many projects also. And the learnings come from there.
That's
right?
true.
Exactly.
That's very true.
Yeah, and that's the subject matter expertise standpoint. Now, one more after that for people who wish to pursue consulting as a long-term career, right? And in Deloitte, right, we're a partnership. Right? And ultimately, the leaders in the firm are all partners, and meaning they own the firm, right? And that's where for people who have ambitions to set up your own business, start up your own business, run a business, operate a business, right?
The company itself is an inspiration.
It is, right? And I think for the difference in Deloitte as a firm as a partnership, you've got skin in the game, right? Right. You're not an employee of the firm where you get a salary at the end of the day.
And then that's just it.
That's just it. If the firm does not make money, you don't make money at the end of the day. And therefore, your mindset and your decisions around what it means as a partner, what it means to grow a business in order to have a team and support a team with that to grow their futures and their careers also is a huge mindset shift as well, right? So that to me is the kind of 4 stages, right? From junior level, leading a team, becoming a subject matter expert, and ultimately
the biggest picture of it all,
running the business at the end of the day, right?
Correct. Thank you for that. I want to know more about this topic of move, learn, and grow fast. So apart from professional growth, can you share with us how this applies to personal growth as well?
Yep, sure. Many of our juniors who come and join us in Deloitte, because we are a multinational, global organization, and many of our work also cross borders as well, right? And one of the unique opportunities that our people go through is the chance to experience different cultures, right? One of our recent new joiners, even as an analyst, went over to Singapore. Another one just went over to Thailand not too long ago as well. And some of our colleagues who are based in Philippines, in Thailand, also move over to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore as well, right? And that's a chance for them to interact with different working cultures, different backgrounds, right? Of course, different makan and food as well, right?
That's true.
To broaden their horizons, much more than just what they know in the places that they grew up in as well, right? Because some of our graduates may have come from local universities, or they may have had a chance to go abroad, but still, going across Southeast Asia, many of them may not have had the chance to...
It's an opportunity that comes very rarely.
Correct. And when you visit the country as a tourist is one, but when you work in the country with the people there and how they do things, the cultures, I think that you can really apply to your day-to-day lives as well, right, as a person, and to also at any point in time as you progress in their careers to get opportunities in other countries, set you up for better success as well going through that, right? So on top of that, I think the ability to network with different people across Deloitte globally, right, would help them build their confidence, right, over time, because they'll find that working in another country or dealing with people in another geography, it's not as scary as you might think it is.
Stepping out of the comfort zone to realize that you're also comfortable.
Correct. And I think at Deloitte, the mobility opportunities that we have and the global network that we have allows people to have those kind of experiences that help develop themselves as an individual, right, to be successful in their careers over time.
That's great. That's really, really good, because you're giving these people opportunities to to see more instead of like just, here. And when you meet more people, you get a lot more experiences and, you learn a lot more.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you so much. That was amazing. So you've shared so many things, from a junior first joining Deloitte, how Deloitte would help them, and then their career progression and whatnot. So the most important question. So if a student is interested in, joining Deloitte, where can they go to find out more?
Right. So firstly, they could always go to our Deloitte website to find out more about the kind of careers that we have, the roles that we have, and the business that we are, right? The kind of offerings that we service our clients in. And there's so much information on the website.
Right.
On top of that, they could always reach out to our own people, right? Within Deloitte, not just me, but with others as well, some within their network. And that's why attending perhaps GRADUAN events, right? Networking with our campus recruiters, whereby it's not just our recruiters there on campus, but we also do bring our practitioners to meet the students as well.
Oh, okay, that's great.
And that's a perfect opportunity to just go there, quiz them, grill them, ask them all the questions that they want about.
What better way to ask if not in person, right?
Exactly.
Especially with somebody who's already in it.
Exactly. Connect with them on LinkedIn, get their business card, and just go have a coffee with them after that.
Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a great session that we had with Yoon Han. And I'm pretty sure the students are happy to know more, especially from this session itself. And without further ado, I would like to thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, most welcome. Happy to be here. Thank you.